Meanwhile, the minority leader at an earlier news conference challenged the charges, saying his side remain resolute and will resist any form of intimidation by government.
What possibly can be described as a sickening display of desperation by a sitting government, which is seeking to push through a very undesirable punitive double taxation measure of e-levy down the throat of Ghanaians. And we have maintained our opposition to it and will continue to do so through its second reading until its third reading and passage into law. We will simply not support e-levy. They are now acting through their devious agents, notably Frank Davids, who is now seeking to injunct the Member of Parliament for Assin North, the Honorable James Assin, from holding himself out as a lawfully elected Member of Parliament for the good people of Assin North. This latest act of desperation, we believe, has the tacit endorsement of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice. And this matter of summoning him before a criminal court for prosecution comes at a time an appeal and an application for stay of execution filed against the Cape Coast High Court's annulment of the 2022 Assin North parliamentary election is still pending before the Court of Appeal. And therefore, where is respect for the rule of law? Where is respect for the hierarchical authority of our court structure, in particular the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court?
Well, the charge sheet, Portia, filed at the Registrar of the High Court and signed by that's Yvonne Atakra Obobisa, the Director of Public Prosecutions, preferred 5 counts against Member of Parliament for that's the Assin North constituency. Let's take a look at these 5 counts, just for the sake of our viewers. So that's where you have it now. The first count, as displayed, is deceit of public officer contrary to Section 251B of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29. Now, according to this, on this chart, the Attorney General indicates that James Assin, on or about the 29th of July 2019 at the Passport Office Accra, with the intent to facilitate the obtaining of a Ghanaian passport, deceived the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's number 1. The second charge, forgery of passport or travel certificate, contrary to Section 15(1)B of the Passport and Travel Certificate Act 1967, NLCD 155. On this particular second charge, the state explains that James Assin, on or about the 26th of July 2019 at the Passport Office in Accra, made a false statement he did not have a dual citizenship for the purpose of procuring a passport. The charge, knowingly making a false statutory declaration contrary to Section 5 of the Statutory Declarations Act 1971, Act 389. On this one, the Attorney General explained that James Assin, on or about 6th of October 2020, at Assin Fosu, made a statutory declaration that he did not owe allegiance to any country. If you look at the fourth charge, perjury, contrary to Section 2101 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, on this one, the Attorney General indicated that, indeed the case that James Assin, on or about the 6th of October 2020 at Assin Fosu, made this false claim. Now, the fifth, as you see there, is false declaration for office, also contrary to Section 248 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29. So these are the 5 charges that the Attorney General has communicated on the charge sheet in this latest one against the Assin North Member of Parliament, as you have the 5 of them. Now, I've been joined on the telephone by a private legal practitioner, Justice Abdullahi, to run through this. Lawyer, good evening to you, if you can hear me. So, first of all, these are the 5 charges as you have it. The majority members of Parliament say that, indeed, this goes to the heart of challenging his eligibility. Minority says it's part of a grand plan. What do you see from your legal eye?
I think, Alfred, right from the day of the declaration and indeed subsequent petitioning against the Assin MP. If you remember, during one of your programs, we indicated that the greatest probability will be that the state will come after him if he is found to be liable for the civil suit that was against him. It was automatic that he was not going to be treated any different from the issues of Abu Takandi. I mean, like the way Abu Takandi and co have been treated. I mentioned this, and indeed, I expected this right from day one. For those who are criticizing the state, I can understand the basis for the criticism, because at this moment we need the numbers in Parliament to be able to withstand the heat coming from the executive. And so when this prosecution comes at this time, it naturally weakens the morale of the minority in particular, and it makes the fight against everything negative with the state, particularly coming from the government, quite difficult, because your morale is deepened at this moment. And so I can definitely understand the basis of their grievances and all of that. But considering the issues that came up from the civil suit at the Cape Coast High Court, these were automatic flow from those, and it was expected much earlier in time. I believe if there is anything, without having to be in the minds of the executive, that has kept this waiting, is probably because of the pendency of the subsequent appeal and issues before the Supreme Court regarding the decision of the High Court. I think this probably could be the reason why the state has probably withheld its hands on coming after the MP at this moment, because naturally the state would like to know that indeed there's a finality to the civil suit before it probably comes after, or before it commences a criminal action against the MP. And so I think that is the major reason why this has delayed, without having to be in the minds of the executive in this matter.
Well, Justice Abdullahi, thank you very much for your thoughts on this. We'll see how the coming days will look like on this. But, Portia, let's stay a bit further on this, because this particular case started right after the 2020 elections. If you recall, when this 8th Parliament was being sworn in on the dawn of January 7, 2021, there was a suit, as a matter of fact, and the Member of Parliament was there nowhere to be found, and challenging the fact that he cannot be sworn in as a Member of Parliament. If you recall that, that did not suffice. He was eventually sworn in. We saw what happened. But take a look at this. These are the specific timelines. We're going to chronicle them to you so you understand how far we've come with this particular case from 2020 up until now. Take a look at this. On the December 30, 2020, James Kwesi was sued at the High Court for holding a dual citizenship on December 30. Now, that traveled into the inauguration drama that we saw concerning this Member of Parliament. Now, between December 30 and July 28, 2021, that was also characterized with a lot of drama. The NDC tried to file responses. The High Court at the time also then closing beyond that's earlier than the normal time. On July 28, 2021, the court annulled the 2020 Assin parliamentary elections, ordered for a rerun. On that same day, the NPP Central Regional Secretary petitioned the CID to investigate Mr. Kwesi for criminal conduct. It is this particular case that was filed by the Central Regional NPP Secretary that has led to this one, the 5 charges we just talked about. On August 2, 2021, Mr. Kwesi filed an appeal at the Court of Appeal. Now, on August 3, the next day, the CID investigations were put on hold because of this appeal by the Assin North Member of Parliament. August 31, 2021, if you recall, the Speaker, Alban Suman Atkins-Bagban, served the court's order, who declared Mr. Kwesi illegitimate. He was served with that particular order. On the 3rd of September, the Speaker declined to declare the Assin North seat vacant. And on today, February 3, 2022, the CID concluded investigations and charged Mr. Kwesi with these 5 charges that we earlier read and then ran through and got some legal interpretation as well of these 5 charges. So, Portia, this is how the situation looks like with the Assin North Member of Parliament. the coming days will be interesting to look
Exactly,
at.
whether it's simply a play of numbers in Parliament or simply a case where the rule of law must work. We'll see how this
Absolutely.
plays out in court.